Guys, I've been in the hospital for 6 days. 6 days. That's the longest I have ever stayed at a hospital. That including being admitted and also visiting. I consider myself to be a healthy person until 6 days ago. 6 days ago, something happened. Something that never happened to me prior or something I've never experienced. And that was led to the EMS being called, treated me on site, recommended that I go to the ER. Then I was transported by an ambulance to the ER. And then from that, they ran all kinds of tests on me. And salute to everybody who reached out to me personally. It was a lot of you guys. Some of you guys I spoke with, some of you guys I couldn't. So I'm making this video to address everyone, friends and family, and also you guys who watches my video. There was a little outro I did in one of my videos that I did in the hospital. And I mentioned I was in the hospital, but I never mentioned what for. A lot of you guys chime in and get well, but you guys didn't know the extent of what happened, if I had an injury or whatever the case is. So in this video, I want to explain that whole ordeal from beginning to end. Try to explain thorough, be informative, be descriptive, and try to use the right medical terminology. So bear with me. Let's get into it. Let's talk about why I had or spent 6 days in a hospital. I haven't played ball in a week, right? Leading up to that day. I was nursing an injury, my hamstring. I feel like I injured my hamstring, the same leg, mind you, like every other week and a half, bro. Every 2 weeks. So I always set out like a whole week. Then my first day back, I always wrap it up. And I start playing, and then, everything's gravy until I injure it again. Well, that day, I was coming back from nurturing that injury. I wrapped it up, and I decided not to go hard. I decided to have a light day. So we playing 4-on-4, sideways. This is at the YMCA in Orlando, Florida, downtown Y. And I decided to guard someone I feel wasn't going to give me that much work. Ironically, it was a female. She played good, but I didn't have like guard the best player on the team. So we winning, and it's time too as well. So there's like 30 seconds left. We're winning. They shot the ball literally 7 times. We couldn't get a rebound. We just had to get one rebound, secure it, and we more likely win the game. And that's important why I say that. Because they scored. They're now up by 1. A few seconds left on the clock. I get the ball. I try to hit the game winner. I miss. No worries. I sat on the sideline. And then, as I was sitting on the sideline, I started getting this overwhelming feeling. Not because I lost the game. I started feeling symptoms I never felt in my life. I feel like the blood just rushed from my head. It went down to my chest. To a point I had to stand up abruptly. I thought it was going to eventually disappear or I'd get over it. But I never did. And I remember telling one of the gentlemen who played with me, I'm not feeling so good. And I'm not too sure he understood me. But it was very important that I tell him again, repeat myself, because if something happened, I wanted to know that I mentioned I wasn't feeling so well. He recommended me to sit down. So mind you, I'm already standing. And from that moment, I thought I sat on the floor. But all I remember was waking up and people crowding over me. People was concerned for my health, asking me if I'm okay. I believe the administrators were called from the Y to come to the gym. They asked me if I wanted paramedics, ambulance, etc. I wasn't coherent, so it really wasn't my decision, but it was the best decision they could have made. And they started giving me water. My homie, George, who I told I would meet at the court, he asked for my phone. And I'm trying to call my wife, and I just couldn't place that call. I'm looking at the name. She's like the first person in my favorites. But I was just stuck. He had to take the phone, called, and spoke on my behalf. By then, the ambulance showed up. They did their thing. And one of the guys mentioned, we got to go to the hospital. And I was kind of reluctant at first, but then they put me in the ambulance. They started giving me IV. I checked my blood pressure. And yeah, and we took off to the ER. He mentioned something to me. He said, black guy with depression. And I'm looking like, what? He said that several times. I heard him. I could have speak, but I never spoke. I never said anything until it was taking me out the ambulance. And I decided to speak what was on my mind because I don't know what's going on. I said, bro, I'm not depressed. Why you said black guy with depression? He said, depression is your heart rate or your heart rhythm before a spike. So depression is good. So it let me believe it had something to do with my heart, at least from the terms he was using. So they admit me into the ER. All these doctors and techs came in. They started putting me up on a whole bunch of machine. I'm still woke that is. I'm getting all these leads put on me. They got the EKG and they're doing these tests. And apparently they had to do the test more than one. That's what the first few hours was like from the time I passed out, blacked out, so I was in the ER. And then eventually they said they got to admit me and take me upstairs to the cardiac floor. So I went to AdventHealth, which is in Orlando. It's a big hospital. And the 7th floor is where all the heart patients are at. And that's where I spend 7 days. And I'll tell you all I've been through on that floor for 7 days. Guys, I forgot to explain one thing. Reason why I said I'm happy that I didn't win that game is because I would have been right back on the court. So God forbid, in the middle of the game, I would have passed out or fainted. It could have been more crazier, man. So, yeah, that's the reason why I said that's very crucial that I brought that point up. I lost, I sat, and I started having these symptoms, these overwhelming symptoms. I had to get a package from UPS, man. Been sitting here all week. All right, I'm back in the studio. So where was I? So they brought me to the 7th floor. That's the heart unit. And day one, which would have been Friday because I spent the night at the hospital. So day one, I got introduced to my nurse. I think her name started with a B, older lady. She was cool. And then the next morning, I was passed over to a younger nurse by the name of Jada, RN. To be fair, all the RNs was wonderful, man. I had a great time. They helped me through a lot of anxiety that I have and currently still have. So the doctors came in Friday morning. There was 2 doctors, Dr. Davids and Sarah. Dr. Davids, I believe, is a cardio. He's a cardiologist doctor, and he deals with the electric side of things. The way he positioned it with the heart, there's the plumbing and there's the electric side of things. So he told me, you may have a rare symptom or syndrome called Brugada syndrome. Never heard of it, don't even know why. I'm thinking like, yo, I'm healthy. Why? What's going on? But that's pretty much it. He went around circles trying to explain to me this Brugada syndrome. And I'm like, I don't know. But before we got there, he recommended other tests. So they recommended a CAT scan. So I went down in the lab, did a CAT scan. CAT scan lasts for 15 minutes. They put you in this little cylinder with half your body sticking out. So pretty much like from my neck down was inside this machine. It was doing all kinds of imagery of my chest and my heart just to see if anything was popping off there that they can pick up. Well, I believe that test came out negative. The reason why is because they never bought anything that was seen in that CAT scan that they need to bring to my attention. And then they want to do an MRI, but somehow the MRI machine was broken, man. So I had no tests after that, man. It was a whole day where nothing was happening. It was just like stand still. So then it was like, yo, you need to get an MRI. Now the MRI, if you guys never had one, it's probably one of the scariest things. And reason why is because it's a cylinder machine and they put your whole body in there. So some of the questions they ask you is like, you know, do you have any like pacemakers in your body? Do you have any iron rods? And more importantly, are you claustrophobic? Because you're going to be in this cylinder for 45 to an hour. I'm like, yo, I don't have no phobia. I'm as healthy as they come. I don't have no pacemaker, no rods, nothing crazy in my system. And I'm like, I could deal with that until I got there. Man, they put me in that machine. I was like, yo, take me out, take me out. And I start asking questions like, do I need this? I start like, why am I here, right? Why am I here? I passed out, but that's the first time. Do I need to take this MRI? And everybody's just reiterating the same points. You gotta take it. You gotta take it. So I had to convince the guy, like, yo, can you just put me in halfway and then pull me out? So he put me in halfway, pulled me out. I was like, all right, put me all the way in and let me see how I can deal with it. So eventually put me all the way in. And I was like, okay, if I could tilt my body this way and tilt my head up a little bit, I could deal with it because they had air coming in and I can get oxygen and then I keep my eyes closed. So that's how I was able to bear with it, man. So they did the x-ray. Now I immediately got my test back from that x-ray or this MRI and it was negative. So I had multiple EKGs, I had an MRI and I had a CAT scan. Nothing. So Dr. David, on whatever day I met, might have been Monday, he's like, you gotta take this Flyconite challenge. I'm like, Flyconite challenge? He's like, yeah, this is how we could test if you got the Brugada syndrome. Now, guys, if you don't know what the Brugada syndrome is, it's pretty much something that deals with the electric of your heart. Like I mentioned, it's the plumbing side and electric side of things. He believed that that's what's probably causing a scenario where, you know, I'm not getting the electricity or getting the current, whatever analogy he tried to explain. I'm not getting that pulsation. So what happens is I go dizzy and I black out and I faint, or, you know, and what led me to this position. Now, mind you, my only sentiment is it only happened that one time. Why am I here? If it was like a continuous pattern or it was something that was just habitual or it was hereditary, I get it. I blacked out one time. Now, to be fair, just because it happened once doesn't create no cause or concerns for that particular issue. So I applaud them for trying to do everything possible. But guys, this is where it turns worse. They recommend me do the Flyconite challenge. And the Flyconite challenge is a 4-hour sit-in test. They give you 4 pills of Flyconite. And what Flyconite is supposed to do is supposed to recreate the symptoms of what the Brugada will appear in your chest. So if they can recreate that, then more likely I have it. That's the only way they could test for this. It's a 4-hour sit-down test where you're being monitored. You have all kinds of things over you. There's a nurse who sat there and she takes screens of the EKG every 30 minutes to send in real time to my doctor, the cardiologist, the electrophysiologist. I think that's his term as well because he deals with that side of things. And he'll do in real time read the readings and determine if I have that. But the part that turned worse is for them to do the test, like I said, it's 4 hours. I think there was a discrepancy with the scheduling. So they wanted to skip that and put a looper in my chest. Now, what a looper is, they make a small incision in your chest and then put something, you know, but maybe by 3 inches by 1 inch thick in your chest so it can keep the recording of how your heart works. So if there's any Brugada or if any shortage of, you know, electrons or whatever, it will record that and they can report in real time to your physician. I'm all for that. My concern was, why are you guys cutting me open without doing the Flyconite challenge? Let's do the least invasive behavior first. Let's test for Brugada. If I have it, then I would oblige to put that in my chest, but not the opposite way around. I'm not going to get cut open for you guys to put that in my chest and then find out, you know, a couple hours later, I don't have the Brugada syndrome. So I had to argue or fight for that because they were so dead on. They were so hyper focused on doing the looper first, then the Flyconite challenge. So me and my wife discussed it. My wife was the biggest advocate for me. She sat down. She's a lot more coherent. It's very smart, very knowledgeable. She explained to him my gripe, my concerns, and she sat down and talked to the nurse practitioner, or I guess the assistant of the previous doctor, the cardiologist, and say, look, let's do the Flyconite challenge first. If we find issues there, let's move on to the looper, where they will cut me open, make a small incision, install that. Now, I'm not saying nothing can still not be wrong. It just makes more sense. 4 hours later, I got to the part of the hospital where they do this flight night challenge. Passed it with flying colors. No Brugada syndrome. Nothing. My EKGs looked the same way as I came in. They have not explained what causes the blackout. We all have our reasonings, especially my closest family members and friends. My wife immediately thought it was dehydration. My homeboy, Benny, he called. He's like, yo, let me guess, not drinking water. My homeboy, Chris, said the same thing. A lot of my peers, my homeboy who visit me, Jawar, man, he's like, you're not drinking enough water, which is true. I'm known not to drink water my whole life. I don't drink water. I'm not saying it's a great thing. I'm not ruling that out while I'm here. It could be dehydration. Now, they clearly run all the tests to check my sugar levels. They check my heart rate, which was crazy because my heart rate is around 41 to 48. So they asked me, is that my resting heart rate? I don't remember. I'm very active, so more likely it could be. I consider myself a very endurance person. So I have great stamina. Athletes' resting heartbeats is like 40 to 50. And mine was in the 40s. I was fluctuating from 41 to 47. Great health, feeling good, no problems. So that was a concern for them. When they realized, that's just his normal resting heart rate. So they moved past that. They look at my blood pressure. I don't know the numbers, but it was good. It was normal levels, blood sugar, everything. Everything looks fine. Everything check. Passed all these tests with flying colors, which lead me to this point. They had to release me. No problem. Eventually. So 6th day, they released me. 1 day shy of a whole week. And I have to admit, I'm still feeling some of the symptoms. I'm having palpitations, shortness of breath. I'm not feeling my normal self. So then I spoke with one of my homies, my real close friend. And all these symptoms I described to him, he stated, it seems like you have anxiety. And to his point, even though he's not a doctor, I have to agree with him because the doctor, when he came in the room and told me they was going to put a looper in me before they was going to do the flight night challenge, 10 minutes after he left, I started having the same symptoms I had when I was in the gym that caused me to faint. Getting lightheaded, I getting to clam up, feet tingling. Could be misinterpreted as a heart attack, but the nurse who was there to support me, she's like, trust me, if you was having a heart attack, it would be like somebody punching you in your chest. And I never had those symptoms. Palpitation was there. They went to read my chart after I told the physician that was over the floor at that time how I had similar symptoms. He went and read my chart, and he did not see any signs, any negative behavior in my whole chart. So when you're in the hospital, they connect you to this little remote thing where it monitors you 24/7. There's a people in the command center, command room, who monitor you 24/7. Nothing. But yet I feel the same anxiety. So the conclusion was that my anxiety levels is high. They actually recommended me taking an anxiety pill, but I was like, nah. So my homeboy started describing, are you having this, and that? I'm like, yeah. The doctor already confirmed when he walked out the office and I started having these symptoms. When my nurse was on the phone with him, because she was just worried as I was, he said he's probably going through anxiety. So that's where I'm at right now. It's a feeling that I can't control at the moment. Sometimes I feel, overwhelmed. I'm not getting the lightheadedness that made me faint. And since then, I only fainted one time. That was the episode that got me into the hospital. But having that episode one other time, minus the fainting, I haven't had it since. And it only came after the bad news, but never came again. I'm at home. I'm feeling shortness of breath. But since my homie told me that, there's many ways to deal with it. I'm just not privy to that just yet. So I have to figure out how I'm going to deal with this anxiety. The anxiety of potentially having a heart attack, cardiac arrest, which I asked the doctor because one of my favorite YouTubers at the time, Kevin Samuels, you guys may like him or may not, or may never heard of him. He died of a cardiac arrest. And that's what my worries was because I didn't know what's happening. He said, if you was having a cardiac arrest, you'd be dead by now. The fact that I'm talking to him was a relief, right? Secondly, all the MRIs, all the CAT scans show that my heart's in great condition. No clogged arteries, no enlargements, nothing, just normal behavior, nothing to see here. But now I'm creating this anxiety, which looks similar to what my whole fear was, something with heart failure. But I'm doing okay. I'm gonna have to get through it. I'm not sure how long this is gonna last. I'm trying to take deep breaths because even right now recording this, I'm still feeling that. But the best thing to do is you have to get over it, right? You gotta learn how to live with it if it lasts longer than I expected or if I have to live with this. But I can't stop what I'm doing. I like making videos, so I keep making videos. I love playing basketball. I'm gonna keep playing basketball. However, I'm gonna take a little break from basketball at the moment. Because it's gonna be mental. It's not because I physically can't do it; it's just mental. But I'm still gonna be making my videos because this is my out. But yeah, I'm home. My wife is happy to have me here. We doing good. I'm doing good. I'm able to eat. I'm able to get behind the wheel. Able to make a video. Now I'm gonna go and edit this, and hopefully it's not as much cuts, so I can just upload it, post it, so you guys can see how I'm doing. I look good. I mean, I know you can't judge the book by its covers, but trust you, man. Based on all the tests they did, it looked like I'm a healthy individual. I'll give you a little back history. The worst I did was broke my wrist when I was a teen. Got cut over my eye in a game. I had stitches. But I never passed out. Never had, my heartbeat never been like out of rhythm, shortness of breath. I did caught COVID once, probably twice, before COVID was a thing. But that's it. That's all, man. Well, anyways, I want to share my story with you guys. I hope this shed a light on where I was, or even people who's going through some things, man. Hang in there. Don't catastrophize, your current situation. Sometimes we just gotta cope. We gotta talk to people. You know what I mean? And if anyone shares a similar story, man, I hope this helped and resonate with others as well. Sharing my story, in a sense, I'm an influencer, so I'm sure there's people whose voice will never be heard, but could share or experience something similar. So if you got stories, definitely chime in down below. Share this video if you have to. It's gonna help somebody. But yeah, man, blink an eye can change a lifetime. So fellas, women who are watching, man, take care of your health. Get the checkups when your body tells you something. Look into it. If people who's dealing with anxiety, I gotta learn to deal with that. If you guys got pointers on that, do chime in. I'd love to hear your comments. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Peace. Thank you for listening. After a week, I finally got my car back. It's been sitting in the parking lot for a whole week. All right, guys.